Sponsored product review. So, I've been contacted by a company called Auxbeam to try out some of their H4 LED headlights. So this is a very interesting set. I've had a couple LED bulbs over the years, and you know, they've done well. They're definitely improving, but I'm excited to see how this pair does. So the company here is Auxbeam. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got light bars and you know, like rock lighting, lots of different headlight stuff and things like that. So definitely check them out. There was a few things I was looking at, but I figured the bulbs would be the most practical. So it comes with some instruction sheets and like a little diagnosis thing in case the bulbs aren't working. Little install diagrams and things like that. Pretty useful. The pictures help a lot in all kinds of different languages too. Very nice. So anyway, on to the main prize. Here it is. The fanless 6500K 4000 lumen per bulb LED H4 headlight. So this is the first bulb that I've ever tried that doesn't have a fan. So that should be interesting. We'll see how that goes, if it actually stays cool, if it lasts, and all that business. It has a plastic lock ring that twists off so that you can put this ring in first and then put the bulb in. So that's kind of cool, because in previous installations it's really hard to get the clip over the big fat fan shield, so that's very useful. So things to go over with this bulb. What makes it so special? Well, this is an 8000 lumen kit between the two bulbs. It was one of the brightest kits that they had. 50 watt low beam, 50 watt high beam. This uses Philips CSP LED chips. So if we get in there, they are really thin. I don't know how you can make them out, but they barely stick up at all. So from what I understand, I think when they're closer to that center line, they actually reflect in the housing better. You know, like a standard halogen bulb. With the bigger ones, like the Cree ones that stick up like those big domes, it's possible that could cause more scattering of the headlights, and that's what blinds the oncoming drivers. So the very important part with this is in the front side, it has that reflector. It's got that on both sides. That is your low beam. That is very important, because if you have it set up like this for the high beam, all that light just goes everywhere, and that's how you blind people. So you really need that reflector housing, and with this flat design, it should have some of the smallest amount of scatter of any LED bulb that I've ever tried. There was a previous set that I tried with this design, and it did really well. Even on like the Ridgeline over there, the original set was not pretty. People were flashing my dad all the time with his Cree set, because they just stuck out too far. But with the newer flat set, they're doing fine. They were a little dimmer though, and that's why I'm excited for this kit, because this is an 8000 lumen kit. And no ballast or CAN bus business, so if you need some of that, you'll have to get the adapters. So just check and make sure if you have flickering or things like that, you will need more. They claim anywhere from like 30 to 50,000 hours, but you know, I'd be happy to get a year and a half out of them. 2 would be awesome. We'll see how it goes. Most of the bulbs I've had have lasted about a year. Still better than the halogens. The super bright ones only last 3 months, and the kind of bright ones last 6. So you're still doubling your money, and these are cheap. You know, I was impressed with this. It must be the fanless design, but they are very affordable. So our test mule today is going to be a 2000 Honda Civic with H4 bulbs. So currently, I have the original nocturnal LED brand light on the driver's side, and a standard halogen on the left. So you can see how much reflector, how much scatter there is. You can see that real like white hot spot all over that lens on the LED. It's pretty annoying on the left side. It might just be too dim to see, but the halogen spreads properly. So we're going to see if the new ones do that or not. Also, you can't really hear the fan, surprisingly. You hear it more inside the car, but the fans are quiet and you only hear them when they're off, but it does cause radio static. So installation is going to be fairly simple. It's going to vary depending on your model, but we're going to come over to where our headlight is located. So on mine, it's pretty accessible. So we just got a plug that we're going to pull off. Usually you'll have a rubber dust boot, and you will have the tab tab to take the bulb out. I don't know if I can get you in there. Just a little clip that you push. Take it out, and then your bulb is free. With halogens, you want to make sure that you don't touch the bulb at all, because your finger oils can mess the bulb up. That is a standard H4 bulb right there. Compared to our new LED bulb. So as you can see, the plastic is still designed the same, so it can connect where it needs to. So surprisingly, they got their length really good. It's actually smaller than the regular bulb, and the only thing that sticks out more is just this fan bit in the back. Cool. You can see how the reflector design matches. See how this one has that real big one that covers the whole thing. They even got the offset right. If you notice, the high beam is slightly lower. So that's really cool. But anyway, this guy just pops in there. So remember, see how this is offset? The top one, the low beams face up towards that top one. So what we're going to do is take this plastic thing off and install that. It's a little tight, so you're going to have to push it. But that ring comes off, and all you do is install the ring first, because like I said, it's hard to get that clip around the body. Okay, so the ring indexes, and then we put our tab on. The ring is locked in place. Then you take your bulb. I forget if it goes clockwise. Okay, yeah, it goes clockwise. So you twist it 45 degrees counterclockwise till it indexes, and then lock it into place. Look at that. Painless. Plug the wiring in and see how it does. And yes, I know I'm showing this in the daytime. Give me a minute until the sun goes down. I'll help you out. So here are the two bulbs right here. The left is our Auxbeam, and the right is the other brand with the creep chips that stick out. So you can see how much more reflector glare there is on the old style. On the left, it's very easy to look at, very comfortable. That's awesome. And up here, no issues whatsoever. Look at that. That is the difference between a good bulb and a bad bulb. That is what I like to see. Very nice work, Auxbeam. So I guess we'll have to wait until nighttime to see how the brightness compares, how the beam compares, and I might even throw in some sealed beam housings so you can see what they look like and things like that. Because these LED bulbs I'm very not happy with. Their pattern is poop, and their brightness is kind of bleh. So yeah, nice, very nice Auxbeam, very nice. Alright, I guess we're going to replace the other one. Oh, here you go, you can hear that fan. You'd be real up on it. But no fan on the other one, so we will see how hot it gets, see if it lasts, things like that. Well, it is actually a little warm. It's probably like 80s, 85. Interesting. We'll see how they do. Okay, so for the driver's side bulb on this, we will have to pick up our power steering reservoir. Hondas are cool. A lot of their stuff is slide fit. You can just slide it right out of there, pick it up out of the way, and you'll have access to get to the housing. So here's our comparison. The Nocturnal brand is on the left. You can see how larger their LED chips are, how far they stick out, the little fish bowls. So that is the old style right there that stick up, and the reflectors just ain't doing them justice. There's way too much spread on those things. So the failure mode on these Nocturnals has been that half the chip will burn out, one side burns out, or for me it keeps flicking on and off, and then eventually they will turn like a blue and then just stop working altogether. So the housing is a little shorter on the new style, so that's cool. The fins are a little thicker, sort of, but they're easy to install clip. It's not really a problem. So okay, there you go. Okay, so I think I actually figured out what's going on here. So this is the old Nocturnal brand, and this is with the low beam on and the low beam facing down. If you notice, the high beam chips look like they're on. But from what I can tell, that's just the low beam spilling onto the bulb, and then that bulb reflecting that. So that is probably where our high beam scatter is coming from. Because if you try to put like an index card or something in there to... Yeah, that's bright. Don't stare at that. If you put something like a divider between the low beam and the high beam, then you can see that that one is barely like illuminated at all. So the chip definitely isn't on. It's just getting scatter. So that's what it is. The actual bulb design is what's scattering it. Interesting. I thought it was more, well, I mean it is. Huh. Good to know. I'm actually glad I tested that. I didn't notice that the last couple times I was looking, but anyway. There you go. That's that style. Okay, so here's our new brand bulb. Notice anything different? I can comfortably look directly at that. No issues at all. So that's the difference between having a flat chip and having ones that stick out. Look at that. That is gorgeous. That is what you want. That's awesome. So there you go. That's the difference between a well-engineered reflector housing and one that's not. That's great. I'm very happy with that. Nicely done. Flat chips are the way to go. And here we are for the other age-old question. Can you fit the rubber dust boot over it? No, not really. So the removable ring gives you a slight chance here, but you can't push it down far enough to even get to the point where you can see the tabs. So you'd have to do some major trimming. You'd have to at least cut this this inner ring out if you wanted to really try to reuse those boots, but you got a lot of contact and this thing does get hot, so I don't know. I've been running them fine without. I haven't noticed any severely adverse effects on my housing, so yeah, we're just gonna go bootless. Okay, for those of you wondering about the final install depth, that's how far they stick out, at least out of my housing. So nothing terrible, but again, trying to get a rubber boot on that's going to be difficult. But anyway, this is how they look in the daytime. Oh man, look at that. That is beautiful. I'm into that. Cool. Alright, I guess we'll have to wait till it gets dark and see how they do. Okay, radio interference test. Yeah, so we do have a little bit of radio interference. Interesting. Alright, so finally nighttime. We can see a nice beam pattern going on here. So as you can see, there is really no spillage besides the factory pattern, which is awesome. Here's the high beams. They seem to be lighting up pretty well. And if you notice, they flick instantly because they're LEDs. Not bad. I think some of the other brands look a little brighter. I feel like my previous set looked brighter because of how much was spilling out. But these ones have a nice sharp cutoff because the beams work the way they're supposed to. So that is awesome. I like that. That's very nice. And if you're curious about what the beam pattern actually looks like, up on the garage, get a little closer there. So that's the low beam, and that's the high beam. Not bad. If you notice, the driver's side looks a little bigger. I noticed that one, the bulb sits at a different angle. It's like rotated just a little bit, but that's how it was from the factory. So, not bad though, not bad. Alright, so this is how they look outside. Fairly comfortable to look at. Not too bad. I noticed the phone likes to do with this glaring stuff a lot. I don't know if there's anything on the lens or not. Weird. But when you get down here, you notice it definitely gets a lot brighter. You can see how that driver bulb, it appears brighter, I guess because of the angle that it sits at, but yeah, it's not bad at all. See if I can get this thing to hold. So here we are up here. Cam down. Yeah, it's got a nice cutoff. Nice and low. But that's about what it looks like. That's fine. I don't really see an issue with that. They just look like nice bulbs. Cool. Very nice, very nice. Do the same thing with high beams. Okay. And this is the high beam. Yeah, surprisingly, like either or, it's really not bad until you're like right in there. Like seriously, that's high beams? Wow. Very cool though. But that's something that you would expect when you have the proper beam pattern. Very nice. Not bad, Auxbeam, not bad. Radio interference is a little high, and I don't know. Besides that, not bad. I feel like if I could aim my my headlights up a little bit more, I'd probably be pretty happy with them. We'll see how they last long term without cooling fans. Alrighty, so sorry about the craptacular video. For some reason my smartphone is really just crapping the bed after the latest software update. What else is new, right? So we got out the trusty DSLR. So here we are, a proper night shot. It took you long enough, right? So there you go. That's what they look like. This one doesn't show the weird-ass glare that my phone was showing. But I think there's some rain on the lens, so sorry about that. There you go. Ah, bastard. But yeah, there you go. Like I said, I've never gotten any high beam flashes before, but my dad definitely had with his housing. So they just look like brighter bulbs, but they don't look quite as much like high beams. So not bad. I've used these for, I think, a week or 2 weeks now, and I don't know. I'm a little in between. So the cutoff is as good as we're going to get for this style housing. I think it's just the housing that it's in, that this just Honda Civic housing is just, we can't really get much better out of it. But the weird thing is, even though they look slightly bright, when you're driving down the road, they seem kind of dim. Like, honestly, it's just really where they pointed. They point, I feel like they point kind of low, so they just seem like they aren't as bright as they could be. But that's not really fault of the bulb. It's really just, it depends, because it's going to be different depending on what car you put them in. But because of their proper cutoff, you should have a fairly good luck with them. The radio interference on these is surprisingly fairly terrible. I thought that maybe the fans had something to do with that. But no, I mean, this is a fanless design. It doesn't have any kind of like ballast system or capacitor or whatever the heck some of those doodad things are. But I don't know, when I'm driving at night, half my radio presets are just static now, so that's a bit of a bummer. But overall, I mean, I don't know. They're white LED lights, and they light up the road for the most part. So yeah, maybe an improved housing would help that a little bit, but really the only negative I have is the radio interference. Everything else, it's got a nice light output. It's got a very nice cutoff. It is a fairly white beam. It doesn't look super blue. Maybe like the slightest tint of blue, but I don't know. I'd like to see some slightly yellower bulbs, see if they look any better in the rain and things like that. That's about the only downfalls. Like when it's really wet, it's hard to see your beam on the road. But yeah, oh well. And for tits and pickles, let's look at the high beams. you know, it looks a little brighter, but again, it's not like extremely offensive until you're like, you know, crouching. It's kind of strange how these bulbs are set up, because the second I stand up even a little bit, they don't even look that bright. Like, what is this? Like, I'm looking at this directly and it's like, all right, that's kind of bright, but it doesn't hurt. Like, it's not painful. I would just be like, oh, this guy just has strange headlights, not that they're on high beams. I'm honestly curious, like, what's the difference? Moby. I guess leave it to Honda to have the most unoffensive high beam ever. Enough blabbing, there you go. That is your Auxbeam H4 LED bulb, 65K and 4,000 lumen per bulb. Alright, hope that showed you a thing or two about LEDs. I certainly learned a little bit. Big shout out to Auxbeam. Thanks for sending me your product for review. I do enjoy testing these out occasionally. Hopefully they don't bore you guys too much, but it is interesting to see how the technology improves over time. So yeah, I guess that's all for now. Check out their website, links below. See ya.